I reviewed a couple of Boundary Supply's products in the past, the Rennen and the Rennen Pro for example, and I criticized the Rennen quite a lot for a couple of the features that I found not to be that great and that they just gotten in my way. However, I really liked the Rennen Pro, while I also had a couple of things that I kind of considered trade-offs. But overall, I really like Boundary Supply products for their build quality, their design and look and unique feature set. And the same holds true with this new Boundary Supply bag. I have a lot of things that I like, but there are also a lot of things where I would say I would kind of change that. I respect that you put in those features, but I think there are a couple of trade-offs with those features. So without further ado, let's go into the review of this new Boundary Supply bag. So this is the Boundary Supply Rennen Pro, a 20-liter capacity backpack that is ideal for everyday carry, or in my case, going to work, carrying all of my items for work. And just like the other Boundary Supply backpack, this is very well made and has a lot of compartments and slots. But let's find out if all of these compartments and slots are actually useful and if the bag overall is any good. So as you were able to see a little bit, you can fit a bunch of items into this Boundary Supply bag. For example, this Evergoods Cap 2 liters fits perfectly well into this backpack, and it kind of expands and compresses by itself depending on what items are inside. However, what I do not like is that although there are a lot of small compartments and pockets to organize all of your items, I feel like that all of these compartments kind of get into each other's way. So you really need to precisely pack and lay out where you want to pack what specific item to kind of prevent each pocket and each compartment somewhat getting in each other's way. But once you figured out how you want to kind of pack all of your items into the compartments, the slots and the main compartment, then I'm actually pretty surprised A, how much you can fit inside, B, how well everything is inside, and because everything is a little bit tighter and very snugly inside, although you can kind of argue that potentially some of you don't like that, but because everything is very snugly inside, it has its specific place, it is very comfortable to carry. Again, you will need to kind of figure out and specify and plan out how you want to utilize all of these compartments, all of these slots, because they get into each other's way, and more importantly, you probably will not be able to fill all of the compartments because again, they get into each other's way. But once you kind of figure out how you want to load every compartment and every slot, everything fits in perfectly well, and because it is very snug and very efficient, let's say that way, efficient inside, nothing kind of rumbles around and it feels very comfortable on your back, especially with the shoulder straps that are not too big for everyday carry but still padded enough to be comfortable on your back. Alright, I talked a lot about the slots, how everything fits inside and how the items kind of get into each other's way depending on which slot they're in. So maybe it's a good idea to kind of talk about what I packed inside and how I utilized all of the pockets inside this backpack. Alright, let's talk about how I loaded up this backpack with all of the items. On the outside you have actually two external water bottle slots in which I attached or slotted in my large water bottle. You can see how I utilized this on my trip to Thailand. Check out the video about the essential travel items that I used on my trip to Thailand for a Muay Thai camp in the info tab above. Great water bottle, really expensive. I paid 120 euros for that. It has a UVC light in it and it also has a filter. I wanted to have something like this for my 20-hour flight to Thailand to filter and clean the water at the airport, but also in Thailand. So this was a very expensive investment, but I thought that it is really worth it. Again, check out that video, but I will do a review about this bottle in the future. Then you have a couple of lashing points that I actually did not utilize. You can actually use these to attach the other bag in the Boundary Supply Supply lineup to attach it here on the outside. I didn't do that. I used this bag for work. I didn't need that much more. Before I go into the bag, let's take a look at the back panel. The shoulder straps are comfortable for a bag that is intended for everyday carry and isn't loaded up that heavily. I found it to be very comfortable to carry around. You have two zippered pockets. One pocket is only here to kind of hide away the luggage strap that you can attach on this part over here. And I like that you can kind of hide it away and not have some strap here dangling there all of the time. This pocket is a quick access pocket that is RFID protected, so this is the perfect place for your passport. It's very shallow or thin, so you only can put in like flat items like your passport. But if you want to kind of stow away your Orbit Key Pro, for example, that will get very tight in there. So going to the couple of compartments in this bag, you actually have 3 zippers on the top that are all the same. So if you kind of carelessly want to open up a zipper, then there actually is the potential that you probably, if you don't look, if you just kind of swing it to the front and grab a zipper to open it up, there is a potential that you grab one of these 6 zipper pulls and don't really know which zipper pull you actually grabbed without properly looking. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. What I usually like to do is I try to keep the zipper pulls kind of one on this side, then another one maybe over here, and so it's kind of separated. What I also like about these zipper pulls, they are designed and intended to be secured in these kind of, how do I want to call them, anti-theft deterrent garages. So you can kind of wiggle them through these loops, and then it will be difficult for a pickpocket to kind of open up these zippers to get to your items inside. That being said, it is very fiddly to push these zipper pulls through these loops. I applaud Boundary Supply for this idea, but it is not only difficult for a pickpocket, but it is also difficult for you. So I would only use them, for example, if you know that you do not access your laptop compartment for a while. Now, let's open up this back pocket. This is the tech compartment basically, and I like that you can open it up clamshell style. You have not only your laptop compartment or laptop slot, which I get into in a second because it has a very cool protective feature. You have a couple of slots here in which, for example, I store my Bluetooth mini keyboard for my Samsung Fold 5. Then you have a couple of mesh pocket slots here for organizing smaller items. Then another pocket up here that is great either for your keys or maybe your charger. I have some cough drops in here, but you also have a loop to attach a key with a carabiner. Some pen slots. Here is one with the CVV Bold Action Pen. By the way, I link all of the items that you can see in this video in the description below. Those will be affiliate links. With those you won't pay more, but if you consider buying any of these items that are linked below and you use one of those affiliate links, you won't pay more, but you will support this channel with a small kickback of that sale. Now, getting to the laptop slot. What I really like about the laptop slot is it has this magnetic kind of crush preventing things in here. So what happens is first you put them here with the Velcro. So if you have a bigger laptop, then you can kind of adjust that. And what it does is it is a hard kind of material, so it will prevent your laptop from sliding out, but more importantly, it gives this structure some crush protection space that your laptop won't get kind of squished, because this thing is a hard material that will kind of prevent the laptop from being kind of crushed in this area. But it won't protect it if anything hard is going in this direction. Nevertheless, I really like this design. The laptop compartment, that is good for a 16-inch MacBook Pro. This is a 15-inch MacBook Pro Retina Edition Intel processor, so a very old one. Fits in here perfectly. It is suspended. It goes up to here. You have another tablet slot that I did not utilize. And this is just a very good example of all of the slots in this bag. And I previously already mentioned that some of these slots can get into each other's way. For example, if you put something really bulky in this compartment, it will get difficult to kind of close this compartment, because when it's bulky, it takes away from the space of this compartment and makes it difficult to close. So again, you kind of need to think about where and which slots you want to utilize without them getting in your way. I did not load anything into this bottom mesh compartment because I did not want this compartment to bulk out and make it difficult to close or create pressure points against my laptop. Again, I like all of the slots, but you really need to think about where you want to put specific items. And this 2 slots in particular will be difficult to kind of fill out. For example, if you put a MacBook Pro charger here, it will compete with the space of anything that is in this compartment or in this. And if you have something bulky in here and here, it will kind of compete with each other, and then it will be difficult to kind of close this tech compartment. So that is definitely something you will need to keep in mind. Going to the main compartment, that is top loading. It's not a clamshell style opening, so you can open it. This is the furthest you can open it up. And you can maybe already tell a little bit here, this pocket, it is bulking up. You don't know which pocket it is at the moment. I will show you in just a second, but I loaded it up with some items and you can already see that it bulks up. You see this? This is a little bit thicker. The items in here bulk up into the main compartment and therefore compete with the space in this main compartment. Another example of kind of plan out where you want to put some items. Nevertheless, I was able to fit in my Evergoods cap 2 liters with all of my tech items. This has all of my chargers, USB hubs, my mouse that I use for work. That fits into this main compartment perfectly. It slots right at the bottom. But let me put that away first. Then I always bring a mechanical keyboard. At the moment I review this knock-free split keyboard. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel to see the review of this keyboard. I really like this keyboard. I did not expect to like this keyboard that much. So this is the knock-free 65% split keyboard. So both of these items fit very well into this compartment. You have some fit locks here, which allow you to kind of utilize one of their extra compartments to kind of slot in here. But I feel like I wouldn't do that because that would take away even more space in this main compartment. I do like that this whole design of the bag, I'm not sure if you can see this here. If nothing is in this main compartment, it kind of collapses on itself. You see this? And kind of makes the bag slimmer once it's empty, and I really like this. So if it's not loaded, it collapses on itself, but if it's loaded, for example, let me just fill up the Evergoods cap 2 liter, my mechanical keyboard, then it kind of expands here again, giving you the full capacity of that main compartment. Now, getting to this front admin panel section. Also, this is not fully openable. This is clamshell style. And here you have a couple of slots. Going to this slot that is kind of compressing into the main compartment. That is the glasses compartment. And I always say this, I have prescription glasses, right? I would never use a so-called glasses pocket for my prescription glasses, because even though they are slightly protected, they will not be completely protected from getting crushed by anything other in this bag. So if I had my glasses in there, there is a high likeliness or potential of them getting crushed. So personally, I never use them for glasses. However, I use this slot A from my Anbernic RG35XX Plus, and I've never played Pokemon in my whole life, but I thought, yeah, maybe try it out. And I started Pokemon Fire Red on the GBA, and it is so much fun. I'm grinding all of my Pokemon right now. I'm just started a couple of days days ago. I got 10 hours in. So whenever I got a little bit downtime, I switch on the Anbernic RG35XX Plus and grind a little bit my Pokemon to the next level. I love this device, but this pocket, this glasses pocket, is perfect for that device, plus my DJI Pocket 3, which is currently being used to film me. Both of those items fit perfectly in this glasses pocket. But again, just to repeat myself, all of the items in that pocket kind of bulk into the main compartment and take away volume and capacity of this compartment. So please keep that in mind. Then in the front of this glasses pocket, you have another slot. Also, if items are in here, for example, let me put in the DJI Pocket case and this Anbernic, it kind of competes with this slot here in the front. So I am sounding like a broken record, but there are a lot of slots that are really cool, but you really need to kind of think about where you want to put your items and be aware of the fact that you won't be able to use all of the slots because the items somewhat will compete with each other's space of each pocket. And this is also another good example. If this pocket is full, this pocket here will be a little bit more difficult to utilize for, let's say, bulkier items. You can put flat items in here, but bulkier items, if this is fully loaded, will be difficult. Then down here, I put my Bellroy Carryology pencil case, which is my boo-boo kit. So meaning ibuprofen, but also deodorant and eye drops and stuff like that. Then next to it, I have my extended EDC in the track folding pouch in this bright orange. This makes it very easy to find because, as you can see here, this is a dark black inner lining. I would have wished this would be brighter, so finding smaller items and seeing them would have been much easier. That's why I use this orange track folding pouch. So my extended EDC is charger, charging cables, power bank, stuff like that that I don't need in my pants pockets, but it's good to have with me on a day-to-day basis in my backpack. So these two pouches are at the bottom of this front admin panel here. So yeah, this is everything that I fitted inside this backpack. Now that you have seen me use this backpack, that I showed you what's inside this backpack during my testing phase using this at work, let's talk about the verdict about this bag. The Boundary Supply Rennen Pro is a 20-liter capacity backpack that is incredibly well made. I really like the choice of materials. The black X pack, yeah, you could argue that the black bag is a little bit boring, and yes, it looks to some degree very stealthy and a little bit bland, but still cool in a way. I do like the look. I like all of the, as I said, the choice of materials, but also how everything is put together. It feels very solid and very durable. I do like that once it's empty, it kind of collapses on itself and doesn't appear like a really bulky backpack on your back, although it might be empty. So I do like that feature. Speaking of the materials, I would have loved if Boundary Supply would have chosen a bright inner lining for the fabric, because as I mentioned in the what's in my bag segment of this video, each compartment can be a little bit crowded, and I sound like a broken record, but each compartment, each slot gets into each other's way, and therefore if there would have been a bright inner lining, because these pockets are somewhat getting in your way, having a brighter inner lining would have made it much more easier to find and see your items. For example, here in the front compartment, because you can't open it up completely, I wouldn't say that I lost it, but I thought that I left it at home, but it actually was fairly down at the bottom. It slided somewhat to the side. So my Bellroy Carryology pencil. Pencil case is fairly slim and small, unfortunately also black. So when I actually took out my track folding pouch, which fortunately is orange, so what I did is both of these pockets are kind of like this inside. So when I took out the track folding pouch, the pencil case fell over like this and was like this at the bottom. And when I arrived at home and I was kind of looking for this pouch, I thought, oh no, I forgot it at the office. But matter of fact, it was just at the bottom, and because the inner lining is black and this is a fairly like tight front compartment, I just didn't see it at the bottom. So yeah, I would love if companies would opt for bright inner linings, especially in this case where everything is a little bit tighter. Continuing with the pro stuff before I go to the negative, I do like that you can fit so many items in here, and once you find the space or the slot where you kind of want to put it in, everything fits very tightly. That sounded a little bit negative, but it feels that when you find the places where you want to slot them in, it feels very efficient. Everything has its place and nothing is kind of sliding around, and therefore when you walk around with this bag and it is on your back, it feels very comfortable to carry around because nothing is kind of like bumping around inside the backpack. So that is something that I really, really like. All of these pockets, and I get to that in a second, I've found a use for most of these pockets, and I would assume that all of these pockets will be useful to some people, but not if you want to use all of them at the same time. I think once you get this, you will need maybe a couple of days break in time to kind of figure out where you want to put what item and which slot you actually want to utilize. Because as I said, in my experience and in my humble opinion, you won't be able to use all of the slots. And I do like the tech space or the tech pocket that opens up clamshell, where you have these little slots to organize your items. But as I said previously, you kind of need to figure out how thick your items are, because as I mentioned previously, if you have your MacBook Pro charger in one slot, the other slot won't be able to fit any thicker items because those pockets will get into each other's way. And then I'm not really sure why I would need the laptop slot in the tech department or tech compartment to be clamshell opening. I maybe would have rather have the main compartment be clamshell opening and not the tech slot. However, I do understand because of these slots and compartments inside the laptop slot, you kind of want to be able to open it up clamshell to see these extra slots and compartments. However, I'm not really sure if it's necessary, to be quite frank. If this would only open up to here, you would still have access to this pocket, because from what I can tell is, if you open up this clamshell, the only pocket that is actually hidden by not being able to open up clamshell style is this pocket down here. And as I said, once you have your laptop charger in here, this will be difficult to load anyways. And yeah, I'm not really sure if this is actually needed to be able to open clamshell style. That being said, one reason why you maybe want to open this up clamshell style is if you are getting to the airport and you are going through the TSA check, and then maybe you open up this flat, put it through the x-ray, because here's your laptop, and maybe you assume that this will help you to not unload your laptop. But from my experience with bags that have this kind of open up feature to kind of expose your laptop, most TSA agents will say, nope, gotta take out that laptop completely. So from that perspective, I don't really think this clamshell style opening is really worth it. So I would have rather be this kind of top loading, so open up until here and then access your laptop, and have the main compartment fully clamshell style opening. And this brings us to the negative of my verdict about the Boundary Supply Rennen Pro. Because this is top loading, and I think you saw it in my what's in my bag section, this top glasses pocket, which, as I mentioned, or I always mention this, and maybe the title of this video should be I am a broken record, because I keep repeating what I'm saying. From my perspective, don't use the glasses pocket for your expensive glasses, because there is always the risk of your glasses getting scratched. Although that pocket might have a soft inner lining, it will prevent your glasses from getting scratched up, but it won't prevent it from them getting crushed. And this glasses pocket kind of protrudes into the main compartment, making it, if this glasses pocket is loaded with, let's say, bulkier items, then it will get somewhat in your way of pulling out bigger and bulkier items, like in this case the Evergoods Cap 2 liters. I know this is my use case. Probably many people don't use this big of a tech pouch, but if you have this, it can get a little bit cumbersome. Not difficult, but a little bit cumbersome to kind of pull it out and pull it past this bulky glasses pocket. Not a big deal, but if this would have been clamshell style opening, the main compartment, then it would be a little bit more easier. Oh, during recording my B-roll, I noticed something. You know, I just mentioned, right, that if you kind of want to slot in your very bulky tech pouch into the main compartment, and you kind of need to wiggle it through the top two pockets that kind of bulk into the main compartment, so the glasses pocket and this mesh pocket here in the tech compartment. If you wiggle that through this main pocket, there are these two magnetic fitlock attachment points for additional accessory pouches that you can kind of slot in here and that connect via these magnet buckles. However, because I need to kind of, in air quotes, force my Evergoods Cap 2 liter into the bag, what happens is I detached one of these two buckles from there. At first I thought, oh no, I broke that off, and that would definitely have been a negative. However, these are screw-ons, so you can basically screw them on here back on again. So that's definitely something that you will need to keep in mind. If you kind of pack your bag with bulkier items and you force, in air quotes, force them into your main compartments, then what probably happened in this case is every time I put in or took out the pouch, I kind of was turning this little nubbin, let's call it that way, and then it fell off. So if it falls off, you can easily screw it back on. However, you definitely need to be aware of this, because if it kind of falls off, and in best case scenario it will just lay on the bottom of the main compartment like it did in my case. But if you're not careful, then you potentially might lose this little nubbin and won't be able to use one of those additional pouches. So yeah, keep that in mind. These can kind of unscrew themselves if you put in bigger items and they rub against this nubbin to kind of screw it off over time. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. What I do like though about all of these slots and compartments, for example, in the laptop compartment, there is also the top mesh pocket where I stored my wallet, in combination with this glasses pocket where I stored the DJI Pocket 3 and my Anbernic RG35XX Plus gaming device. I do like that all of the items that you store inside this bag will be distributed all the way in a vertical orientation. You know, with most bags you kind of need to consider that all of the items will kind of slide down to the bottom due to gravity and due to the items not being able to stay in place. But having these pockets, the glass pocket, the mesh pocket and the tech pouch, that will kind of ensure that those items won't slide down to the bottom and kind of use every single volume capacity of this bag, which is amazing. But the downside is that if you want to store bigger items into the main compartment, you kind of have to wiggle them around the pockets that kind of occupy the capacity of the main compartment at the top. So if this would have been clamshell opening, this would have been a little bit easier to load. But if this is clamshell, then there is no option for a bottle compartment. And I know that many of you do like to have a bottle compartment on the outside. And I have to admit, for these work purposes where I carried my large water bottle with me all of the time to the office, it was really good to have this actually. And I actually utilized this external water bottle pocket. And I do like this water bottle pocket in terms of design and ease of use. It is very easy to slot in the water bottle into this slot. However, this is an elastic with a soft fabric. I do wonder how long this elastic will last in terms of being able to grab onto a bottle. If this kind of wears out over time, the elasticity, not sure about that right now. I would say, and from my experience with Boundary Supply, I experienced the bags to be very long lasting. But again, this is something that you might need to take into consideration if you have bigger bottles that kind of stretch out this fabric. There might be the potential that this kind of wears out over time and doesn't have enough grab if you want to slot in smaller bottles after a while. But I think that is a given for these elastics to some degree. But this is the 700 milliliter Pure Vis 2 lark bottle. This fits in here perfectly. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention in the negatives of this bag is this bag has a slanted bottom, so it will not stand up on its own. It will always kind of flop over because the bottom is slanted. So you can see it here. It has a trapezoid shape. It is slanted. If you put it on the desk, for example, or on the ground, then hold on, where's my hand? And I will now see it will always kind of fall over. I know that many of you will want a bag that is able to stand up on its own. The Boundary Supply Rennen Pro will not stand up on its own. So yeah, keep that in mind. That's a negative of this bag. So to summarize my negatives. Clamshell opening of the laptop slot, not really sure if it's necessary. This could have been clamshell opening, the main compartment, but I understand that if you want bottle slots on the outside, then a clamshell opening for the main compartment isn't that possible. The front admin compartment, I wished that this would open up a little bit further to give you a bigger opening to see what's inside this bag. Especially, I would have wished for a bright inner lining. So those were a couple of negatives, and the next negative is these abundance, this multitude of slots and compartments. They are great, do not get me wrong. I like having a lot of options for the slots. But you really need to kind of consider that these pockets will get into each other's way, will eat up volume and capacity of specific compartments. For example, the glasses pocket and the mesh pocket in the tech compartment will eat up capacity of the main compartment. That is definitely something you will need to keep in mind. And then you could argue having so many slots and compartments that you potentially won't be able to utilize all of them. You could argue, well, that is a lot of wasted fabrics and therefore wasted weight, because every single compartment, albeit not much, a couple of grams, but all of those grams add up. You could argue that maybe you don't need all of those slots in those compartments because they add up weight, they add up bulk bulkiness to each compartment. So that is somewhat of a flaw or a trade-off or a negative, not sure, because it is on one hand it is good to have options, right? To have a lot of slots, a lot of compartments, to have the option to use those. But a negative or a trade-off of all of these options is weight, bulkiness, and maybe unnecessary complexity. So yeah, keep that really in mind. You have a lot of slots, but in my humble opinion and in my experience, you will not be able to utilize all of those slots and compartments. So be very aware of that. If you get this bag, kind of think about that you won't be able to use this bag to its full potential in the next few days, because you will kind of need to figure out which slots will fit your items, which slots are more practical for your use case. So in the next few days, when you get this bag, you probably will need to figure out what slot do I want to use, how do I want to use it, where do I want to put that specific item in what slot, and what would be the most efficient placement of that item into the most efficient slot inside this bag. So yeah, keep that in mind when you get this bag, or when you look at the website and you kind of consider, oh, that's so cool, there are so many slots, I can use that for this and then that for that. No, that won't happen in my humble opinion. You will kind of need to figure out how you want to utilize all of this slot. And speaking of, if you are going to the website and you consider buying this bag or any of the items in this video, maybe consider checking out one of the affiliate links in the description below. With those you won't pay more, but with those links you will support the channel with a small kickback of that sale. So if you want to support this channel and if you want to get any of the items that I mentioned in this video and you use one of those links, thank you very much. So bottom line, once I figured out how I wanted to utilize the slots, the pockets, how I packed up this bag, I really started to like this bag. I was very surprised how comfortable it is to carry around with all of my items. Because I have to admit, once I load everything up with all of my tech gear, and with the fully loaded water bottle, it gets heavy. But it was very comfortable to carry around. And I do like this look. This might be a little bit stealthy. This might be, dare I say, the black. I kind of got bored with black bags. So you could say it's a little bit boring in terms of looks, but the X-Pack kind of makes it again look a little bit cooler. I prefer colored bags, to be honest, but if you want stealthy, urban, good looking in terms of being able to fit into an office environment, and I actually would also use this for a business meeting actually, because while it doesn't look business, it doesn't really look out of place either. So it looks cool, stealthy, urban. It is incredibly well made. I do like the choices of materials. I love X-Pack. I know many people don't really like X-Pack. It's not as crinkly and loud as you would anticipate. It doesn't get that dirty. The floor in the office that I was going for, it was a little bit dusty at the ground because it's also winter and everyone is kind of walking in there with their wet and dirty shoes. So it gets a little bit dusty on the floor. And there's no dirt on here. And if there was dirt, I was able to kind of swipe it off, brush it off. So the X-Pack, from my experience, didn't kind of pick up that much dirt. And again, the broken record, all of the slots, you won't be able to use them, but I don't think that's big of an issue if you know what you're going into and if you take your time to kind of experiment a little bit how you want to load it up, how you want to utilize the slots. Yeah, I do like the Boundary Supply Rennen Pro backpack and I can actually recommend it. As I said in the introduction, I always have a little bit of negatives to say about some of the Boundary Supply's backpacks. For example, the Rennen, the smaller one, not the Rennen Pro. There were a lot of things that I did not really like and that I mentioned in my review. And I was going into this review thinking, oh, maybe it's overly complicated, maybe all of the slots are too much. And I was kind of right in the beginning, but I took my time to kind of experiment with the way I loaded this up, and now that I found the way how I want to load it up, it is amazing. I really like this and I can highly recommend the Boundary Supply Rennen Pro. So if you like this video about the Boundary Supply Rennen Pro, maybe check out the video about the Rennen Pro in the video up here. And YouTube thinks that you like the video down here. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here, and I see you in the next video. Thank you very much.